Hey everybody, what up? All right, so in this video, we have two CEOs that are battling it out. And in the past, I must admit, I actually criticized NVIDIA's CEO not that long ago because I could have sworn in that video, there was something I was pointing to where he was saying that AI was going to take all of our jobs. And I was saying how that wasn't the case. And then in this argument here between NVIDIA's CEO and Anthropic's CEO, Anthropic's CEO is saying that AI is going to take 50% of all white collar jobs, and NVIDIA's CEO is actually like slamming that idea. So the bottom line is that it's a showdown between these two in the AI market. Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO, and Anthropic's CEO Dario Amodei, if that's how you say his last name, something like that. But anyway, Anthropic is the company behind Claude, and anybody that's been using these generative AI tools for coding probably knows that Claude seems to be the best tool for the job for the moment. And I've used like Gemini, I've used Grok and ChatGPT, but for me, it's usually a combination between ChatGPT and Claude, and sometimes I'm using the two to have conversations with each other. So all that said, Dario from Anthropic is actually saying that AI is going to be a job destroyer. It's going to take out 50% of all white collar jobs. And basically Jensen saying that he disagrees with everything that Dario had to say. So you could see he criticized him over recent claims and says pretty much disagree with almost everything the CEO said. So basically, reading some conversations from developers talking about this particular subject, a lot of people are basically arguing, whether or not it's 5 years or 15 years, AI is eventually going to break the current economic model that we have for millions of workers. I think that it is quite clear that the future is reshaping itself. AI is at the forefront of that. It's probably the biggest thing since smartphones and the internet, and it's somewhere in those three. I'm not sure which one the top would be. I'd still probably say the internet, but it is a game changer. It's going to change the way that we're doing everything. It's already doing that. There's already jobs that have completely gone away, and if they're not fully gone away, then they will very soon. And one of those things could be like translations, like language translations. The AI tools do it better than humans, and you just simply don't need humans to do that anymore. But even if AI doesn't spike unemployment immediately, basically it's a shift of power and wealth, and we're seeing that a lot of these companies are battling it out to see who's going to be able to control the AI market in the future. And both of these CEOs have an interest in controlling and making more money and profit for their shareholders and their company. Jensen basically wants to have the power and the user and have everybody available to buy graphics cards from NVIDIA so that you can run your own language models and such, and not just individuals, but companies as well. And then you have people like Anthropic's CEO that basically says that this is only going to be a handful of companies that are going to have the type of capital needed and the access to the type of models that everybody's going to be using. And we're all basically going to be servants of that power that they have. So one good example was that someone said, when the coal mines closed, the coal miners didn't become coders. They just lost. They just lost their jobs. They lost their way. And if you look at some of the poorest areas in the United States, they're all in Appalachia and coal country. However, on the flip side, that there are people out there, and I'm one of them, that believes that this technology is just going to simply reshape the way that we do things. It's going to give us more power. We're going to push the bar higher as far as what we're able to achieve and attain. Right now, if you're seeing job losses because of AI, and in much of the case, it's greed through corporations that are simply just trying to have less developers write whatever sort of business model that they have currently going on. And that's always been the case. IT has always been an expense for most business companies. Unless you are an IT company, all other businesses, essentially, if it's like insurance or something like that, or finance, IT is an expense and a cost of doing business. And the less you can pay for that, the better off you'll be. But you also can't jeopardize quality and obviously cybersecurity and things like that. So all that said, it's always been a goal of these companies to pay the least amount as possible for their IT infrastructure. And the bottom line, though, is that we're not going to have this world where everybody can just spin up their own Amazon, or everybody can spin up their own finance company, or PayPal, or whatever it might be. You're still going to need a lot of capital, and you're still going to have these companies that are going to differentiate themselves from one another. And if they're all just relying on the same AI tool to create their product, what's going to differentiate one from another? But the bottom line is technology always seems to move forward. So where we see things get disrupted and replaced, we usually see, we usually see a replacement, not just simply a collapse. So some of those examples would be like, spreadsheets and switchboard operators and AutoCAD replacing, draftsmen. Those used to be professions. Obviously, you can go to like horse and buggy and all that stuff, and then the automobile and what that did, and the automobile ushering in industries of just working on cars and car parts and car dealerships and insurance companies that insure those cars. And then you have obviously the roads that they drive on. So all of that didn't just displace the horse and buggy. It created vast new opportunities. And that's sort of what I'm talking about with AI, that what you're seeing right now is the beginning, and companies are probably going to have to watch themselves if they try to force everything, whether be overseas or just simply cutting down on their IT staff. It'll probably come back to bite them in the end. Now, one of the issues with AI is that you have, I think, there's this new way of coding, and I've talked about it, but like there is burnout that can occur from just simply not having the experience of a job well done, or of like satisfaction of figuring out a problem, or something like that. Basically, I think that this AI world could also usher in some major burnout when you're simply you're like babysitting a toddler and prompting these AI engines to write code for you instead of actually solving these problems for yourself. If you're solving the same old boring problems doing that and you're not growing, I could see that definitely leading to some burnout. Plus, we've seen since the 1970s that, every time we've increased productivity, we've had massive productivity gains since the 1970s, but raises and salaries have not kept up. So even though we're performing way more, our salaries are not keeping up. And I think we're going to see that in the short term with AI as well, if we aren't already. And that is that you can be more productive, and a 10 times developer, probably 10 times more productive if you're using AI tools in an efficient way. I actually say 10 times. That's probably bullshit, honestly, because seriously, AI has cost me time many, many times over the last year, where I could have just done something quicker myself, but I spent more time trying to figure out how to vibe code the stupid thing to get it working. So the bottom line, though, is even if you could 10 times yourself, are you going to get 10 times the salary? Probably not unless you're working for yourself. So the bottom line here is that Anthropic's CEO would love to have stricter rules. They want more regulation so that they could, more regulation favors big players, and it stifles open source, it stifles innovation and startups and things like that. So that's, Anthropic's speaking from their own personal greed. And then NVIDIA wants chips in everyone's hands, like I said. So they're also speaking from their own greed. They're probably both wrong. They're both essentially fighting over who gets to control the AI era. So another person's comment actually stood out to me, and this is actually very true. It's like, it's not that AI is going to take your job. It's that someone that's using AI will. So whoever uses AI the most effectively is simply going to they could, essentially they will take your job. If you're not able to use these tools to the best of human abilities, then somebody else is going to take your job. And that's always been the case, even with coding. So if you couldn't learn quickly, if you couldn't grasp concepts and continue to reinvent yourself, you were probably in trouble in this career anyway, unless you had some sort of cush gig where it was really 9 to 5 and you just big bureaucratic, monstrosity where you could just blend into mediocrity. I've seen that sort of thing. But that was never going to last forever anyway. But nothing wrong with a cushy 9 to 5 if you're able to blend into mediocrity, if that's your sort of thing. So the bottom line, curious what you all think. I mean, in my opinion, this is definitely going to disrupt the market, but we've seen this before many times. Also, if you're interested, check out the video game I created This is something that I actually started well before chatbots and generative AI was there to assist me. I have actually used it to help me in a lot of cases, but I will say, things like AI tools, even Claude and generative AI, it fails miserably with video game development, animation, art, definitely video editing. So we got a long way to go before these tools take everybody's job, because in many cases it just absolutely sucks and wastes your time.